Hi, folks. I just want to go through quote, paraphrase, and summarize. These are ways that I'd like you guys to start thinking about transferring the research you're finding in the journal articles you're reading. And I think this is going to be really helpful going forward with your IRR and your IWA. So we'll review this more than this video, and we'll practice it over the course of the next couple of 6 weeks. So when you're deciding to quote and paraphrase, there's a lot that you need to understand about how the material works and then also about how to handle that. So when you're quoting or paraphrasing, these are some general rules I want to give you. So I'm going to go over those quickly. Um, your source material cannot make points for you. Source material backs up your claims. And we've talked about what a claim is, and we've talked about what evidence is. So you want to think of that as being evidence for your understanding or your claim or your argument and or your subclaims. Remember, in the IRR, you're not necessarily making a argument. So you're trying to convey the information, and the source material is backs that up and supports it, right? And it's also sort of part of your commentary. So we've talked about line of reasoning. I'm just going to focus here as we go through with the understanding that you guys sort of get the different tasks because we've gone over that. So essentially, the source material has no significance without your commentary. And I think that's important to remember. Choose. So in other words, if you just leave evidence hanging there, it's that's not the purpose of evidence. So choose an important or significant information that relates to your points. So a lot of times you'll see somebody trying to make a point and they'll wedge evidence into it. And you want to really avoid that. You want to make sure that it actually supports it. Now, obviously, that depends on what kind of paper you're writing. And we're writing different kinds of papers for different kinds of purposes. You always want to be faithful to the source material. That includes anything that you put in your paper. You really want to make sure that you're citing it and that you are being faithful to how it's written. And we're going to talk about how to do that. And that's why this is important. So cite appropriately. And we're going to go through citation, and you're going to want to make sure that you generally understand how that works. Okay? So that's just some generalities about it. So what are the differences between quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing? A quote is in the exact wording of the source material, either written or spoken. Quotes match the source material word for word. A paraphrase is a detailed restatement in your own words of a written or sometimes spoken source material. Apart from changes in organization, wording, and sentence structure, the paraphrase should be nearly identical in meaning to the original passage. It's really important in meaning, okay? And we're going to get into more depth in that in this slideshow. It should be near the same length as the original passage and present the details of the original. A summary is a condensed version of a passage. It's similar to paraphrasing, and summarizing involves using your own words and writing style. So it's your writing style to express another author's idea, which presents important details. And then the summary is an important collection of those ideas. So what we want to do is we want to think about why you use a paraphrase, a quote, or a summary, and then when you use it. So when should you use quotes? Well, you want to use that when you're trying to really be accurate to the source material. You want to use the quote to give some authority to a claim or an assertion you have. And you want to do that when the paraphrase or the summary that you're trying to write is really awkward or it's much longer than the actual source itself. So it's really long, and you can't paraphrase it or summarize it in a way that is accurate. You're going to want to use a quote. You also want to use it when there's something really powerful or um, poignant or that really hits your claim, or maybe in your context, when you're writing your context to grab a reader. Um, so think of the quote as a rare and precious jewel. You want to use quotes, especially in the IRR, a lot less frequently than I think a lot of you have done in the past, like when you had to write your freshman papers. So you want to think of the quote as being something that is really driving home a point, okay? So when would you paraphrase? I think you need to think of a paraphrase as the wording of the source is less important than the meaning of the source, meaning the way it's said is less important than what's said and the meaning of it. So the paraphrase and summary, they allow you to maintain the continuity of your own style and then show you actually understand the source. And one of the things that I think is really important, and I've scored the IRR, and you need to realize this, is that they're looking to see that you understand those sources and can articulate how they work together. And so maintaining your academic voice is really important. And when you use quotes, you're sort of jumping into the author's voice. Okay. So a paraphrase, it may be preferred to a summary because paraphrases are more detailed and specific. You may use a paraphrase often for the following reasons. And I think the slide does a really good job of sort of giving you that. To change the organization of ideas for emphasis. So let's say you have an idea and you're like, oh, this is really important to my lens or my argument, and I need to get this in here. Now, it's a larger section, so I'm going to reduce it down. So it helps you simplify the material. And then, honestly, it takes something really complicated for a reader and it reduces it down. But you still have to keep that academic language. So when you decide to paraphrase, avoid keeping the same structure of ideas and sentence structure, or be careful not just to change a few words. That's not a paraphrase. That actually is going to really flag a response and turn it in. It's going to bring up a plagiarism issue, and you don't want that. And remember, our goal is to sort of be faithful to the sources, but not plagiarize. Okay, that's an important thing. So I think, as I said, to condense material, to omit extras from the material, or to simplify the material, that's so now we're in a different sort of area here. Let me go back. I think the thing to remember about summary is that it again is your own. So a summary is it's a lot more flexible, and you're going to use it for longer things. You could use it for a whole work, for example, or you could use it for uh, a whole article. But it could be several paragraphs as well. You want to make sure that you're not using the same structure and the same exact words that are in the actual source material. And I think that's something that I want everybody to realize, is that they're looking to see that you can put together and synthesize some of this information into your own language and your own academic voice, which you're going to develop in seminar. So that's just something to sort of keep in mind. I've got a couple of examples on the screen now, and I want to sort of go through those quickly to sort of show you how these models work. And then I'm going to upload the video, and you're going to be able to, obviously, as you've gone through so far, you've noticed you had to stop and answer some questions as you go. So you're going to get to practice this at the end, but there's also going to be a link in the YouTube video stop thing where you can go out to read a model and see how they summarized it in different ways. But let's look at these examples. So the original sentence is climate change is a pressing global issue that requires immediate action. So when you're paraphrasing it, the world's facing a serious problem with climate change that needs to be addressed right away. So you didn't use the word action. You didn't use the pressing. You're not using the exact same language in the paraphrase. And so here's something that's been summarized. The theory of relativity proposed by Albert Einstein revolutionized our understanding of space, time, and gravity. It introduced the concept of space-time curvature, which explains a gravitational force as a result of warping of space-time. I mean, that's pretty complicated. So here, we're going to take a pretty sophisticated idea and we're going to kind of, reduce it down. So it's going to use the language of the theory of relativity, but it's noticed that the language of the verbs and the language of a lot of the phrases are very different. It changed our understanding of time and space. So it used that idea of time and space and understanding, but it left out, for example, revolutionized, right? And you just want to think about like this is my voice academically. It suggests that gravity is caused by the bending of space-time. All right, so quoting. I mean, this is direct, but you often have to figure out what to quote from what's important. And I think, and then obviously you want to have an introductory tagline or an introductory phrase often before the quote. And we're going to talk about different ways to integrate quote. It's called parenthetical citation. So, all right, hopefully this has been useful. I do want to show you one more, and that's an example of all three. So you can blend those together. And that takes a little bit of practice to doing. We're going to practice that and then see if we can't be a little bit more clear on where and why we're using these three ways of taking your evidence and integrating it into your paper. So these are the practices sentences you're going to see in just a second. The video will stop. And I want you to practice those, and then I'm going to score those. And then I've also included the model sample below. Hope this was helpful. I know it was quick. Appreciate your all's time, and we'll review some of this in class. Thanks.